Count Dracula, a character that needs no introduction. Since his creation in 1897, he has captivated our imagination and fear. After watching this year's Renfield, I was inspired to do a challenge run. Will I be able to beat Skyrim as Count Dracula? The rules of this run are based around the various lore surrounding the character, from the different books and movies. I'm not allowed to eat food or drink potions, as Dracula can only sustain himself from drinking blood. Since Dracula was an avid learner of magic and dark arts, I'm only allowed to kill enemies using vampire abilities and spells from the Conjuration and Alteration tree. Let's get started. I tried to make my character look as much like Dracula as I can. That looks okay. I make my way through Helgen and decide to side with Hadvar. Why? That will be revealed later. I have to run through Helgen Keep without killing these poor Stormcloaks. Now, you could make the argument that Dracula uses hand-to-hand combat all the time, so I should be able to as well, right? Here's the thing though, Dracula doesn't really punch people. He tends to use his nails, or claws, and standard unarmed combat doesn't count as a vampire attack, whereas using the claws in Vampire Lord form does. So I'll be using melee attacks, but only in the Vampire Lord form. Once I make it out of the cave, I get the quest to go to Whiterun from Alvor, and then make a beeline straight for Broken Fang Cave so I can contract Sanguinaire Vampiris, and start sucking the life from people as a creature of the night. Not to be confused with other creatures of the night. Now, the damage of Vampiric Drain is less than ideal. That's because the damage that Vampiric Drain does depends on your current stage of blood starvation. It also affects the cost of using the spell. And as an annoying bonus, using Vampiric Drain won't level up your destruction skill. And since this is the only attack I can use for now, I'm going to have to deal with it for the time being. I make my way to Whiterun and make Nazim my first victim. I get the Bleak Falls Barrow quest from Farengar, and on the way there this thief tries to mug me. So I drain him dry. Then resurrect this wolf to help me, which is short-lived because he just runs off into the night chasing another wolf. I enter Bleak Falls Barrow, and like a struggling Hollywood actress, I suck my way to my goal. I destroy this heroin addict, grab the Dragonstone, and return to Farengar. Then I head out to take on the dragon at the Eastern Watchtower. Because Vampiric Drain does such little damage, I hid in the Watchtower and let Irilith and the guards do most of the work, and delivered the final blow so I could take all the credit. Then whilst on my way back to Whiterun, I get shouted at by the Greybeards.
I live in Smethwick, Birmingham. If you want the fucking brawl, I'll come out of my house and I'll break your fucking legs.
And Jarl Balgruuf, the Great Waste of Space, tells me that I need to go and see them. But before I do that, it hit me that my damage output wasn't going to cut it. So I needed to access the Vampire Lord ability. But that quest doesn't start till you're level 10. But luckily, I know a way to level up quick. I take another cheeky sip from Nazim.
Tell you what, that blood is really Moorish.
And head to Arcadia's Cauldron, and pay her to increase my alchemy skill. Then pickpocket the money back from her. Once I'm level 10, I head to Riften to try and find Durak to start the Dawnguard quest. But to my surprise, the second I enter the city, the quest just starts. I get the Awakening quest from Isran. Then on my way to Dim Hollow Crypt, I encounter Isa Blackthorn, and send her to the afterlife. When I get there, I sneak past these enemies because my damage output is weaker than your dad's pull-out game. Get myself some sweet vampire drip, and run past the rest of the enemies. This part was a pain in the ass. Because I do such little damage, I had to resort to sneaking past these enemies and freeing Serana. But then she kept getting clapped by them, so I killed one of them, and then distracted the second one and led him far away enough to actually talk to Serana, escorted her back to her family, and got the kiss of death from Harkon. Then I head to Redwater Den to fill the Bloodstone Chalice. When I arrive, this bouncer tells me to keep my weapons to myself, so I showed him that I don't need them. I cleanse the world of these crackheads, and make my way to Redwater Spring, leaving a trail of death and destruction in my wake. After arriving, these two idiots try to kill me so they can rise in the ranks in Harkon's court. But Dracula doesn't take shit from anyone. I return to Garin, and Harkon tells the court to find a Moth Priest, but I decided to ignore him and carry on with the main quest. On the way to High Hrothgar, I terrorise a village, then proceed to ruin the lives of the people at Ivarstead. On a side note, if you decide to do this run, then you should always dismiss Serana when you have the chance, because having Serana as a follower drastically reduces the damage that you do with Vampiric Drain. And I unfortunately forgot about this for a significant amount of my playthrough. So even in the Vampire Lord form, my damage using a Blood Plague magic was total shit. As I arrive at High Hrothgar, Gandalf teaches me how to shout. Now, the only shouts that I'm going to be using is Calm Storm and Dragonrend, since they are mandatory for the main quest. Gandalf tells me to get the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. I grab the note from Ustengrav and go meet with Delphine, who wants me to prove I'm the Dragonborn by killing a dragon. On the way, I make a quick pit stop at Whiterun to drain Nazim of all his blood because he's an arsehole, then resurrect him so he won't have a funeral. I take care of the dragon, and for some reason Delphine doesn't seem to care that I'm a vampire. She must think that between me and the dragons, I'm the lesser of two evils. Oh, how wrong she is. Next I head to Solitude to prepare for the infiltration at the Thalmor embassy. Once there, I get everyone's favourite alcoholic to cause a scene, cleave my way through the embassy, and recover a dossier on Esbern, drink some wine straight from the veins of Gerda, and return to Delphine. Then she sends me to get Esbern from the Ratway in Riften. I get there to find that it's full of Thalmor, and after cleaving my way through them, I find Esbern, who's been living like a tramp all these years waiting for the Dragonborn to find him. I bring him back to Delphine, and then we head off to find Alduin's Wall in Skyhaven Temple. On the way there, I pay a visit to the vampires in Broken Fang Cave, and chop them up, because they are a disgrace to the vampire name. I annihilate some Forsworn, drip my blood all over the floor, and finally arrive at Alduin's Wall. After examining it, Delphine tells me to speak to the Greybeard so I can learn Dragonrend. When I get there, Gandalf tells me that he's not going to teach me because I cheated on him with Delphine.
Who have you been talking to? The Blades, of course.
Then his husband tells him off, so he teaches me Calm Storm, and I use it to head up the mountain, and meet Mario. He asks me why I want to stop Alduin, and I tell him that I don't want the world to end. He thinks that I'm being honourable, but in reality Dracula just wants to maintain a steady supply of blood. He tells me to go find the Dragon Elder Scroll so I can time travel and learn Dragonrend. I make a stop at Volkihar Castle to top up at a human petrol station, then head straight to Septimus's cave north of Winterhold. He tells me to go to Tony Mazark's tower, and while making my way through I destroy some dirty Falmer. And come across these two idiots having an argument, so I ended it. Zoomed my way through Blackreach, and finally arrived at the Elder Scroll. Went back to Mario, and travelled back to the past. Learned Dragonrend from these three Nords, then Alduin shows up to fight me. After trying to fight him multiple times, to no avail, I finally remembered that Serana tanks my damage output and dismissed her. I slapped Alduin first try after this. Then he runs away because he's scared of me, and I ask Jarl Bonfluff to play some Dragon Trap in his house. But he tells me he can't until the Civil War stops, and wants me to broker peace between the Stormcloaks and the Empire. But remember earlier when I told you there was a reason I sided with Hadvar? Well, the reason for that is because Dracula is believed to be based on Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, and Vlad III fought in many campaigns and battles. So with that being the case, I decided to help the Empire overthrow the Stormcloaks. But why side with the Empire though? Well, that's because the thought of Ulfric and his men being eaten by Alduin in Sovngarde would probably make Dracula smile. So with that, I head to Solitude to sign up with the Empire. Then Legate Ricky sends me to clear out a fort so they can move in. I evict them the only way I know how, and return to Ricky. And after taking over multiple forts, and doing some menial tasks, I decided to do some side quests to get some items that will increase my damage output. The Amulet of Bats, and the Ring of the Beast. Did some more tasks for the Empire, then we launch an attack on Windhelm. I carve a path through Ulfric's men, and enter the Palace of Kings to confront him. We gank the shit out of him, then I execute his ass, and take his gauntlets as a trophy. Head back to the most dedicated plumber in Skyrim, and even though I said the only shouts I would use were Dragonrend and Calm Storm, I totally forgot about the Call Dragon shout to call Odahviing into the trap. After doing this, I ride his ass to Alduin, then fight my way to Sovngarde. Once there, I find Ulfric.
Do you know the way? I'm weary and lost.
And have a fight with He-Man. Then recruit the Three Stooges to help me fight Alduin. As we land the final blow, he explodes into a bunch of bones, and with that, I beat Sky.
But wait! There's more!
There's one more thing I need to do. Dracula is the king of the vampires, and right now there's someone sitting on his throne. So I head off to finish the Dawnguard questline, so I can overthrow Harkon. I find the Moth Priest, make him my bitch, and get him to read the Elder Scroll of Blood. Then it turns out I need to get the rest of the Elder Scrolls because he wants to binge read them. So me and Serana head into the bowels of Volkihar Castle to find her mother. After smacking around some death hounds, we open a passage in a garden, smash some skeletons, and mix some ingredients together to make a portal to the Soul Cairn. Make our way to Serana's dear old mum, and she tells us to kill the keepers to break down the barrier so we can get the Elder Scroll. So I throw them off their ivory towers. Have a fight with Durnavir, grab the Elder Scroll, and return to the Moth Priest. But he can't read the scrolls because he was playing blind man's bluff, and took it way too literally. So I had to go catch some moths so I could read them myself, and learn the location of Oriel's bow. After this, the Dawn Guard show up and try and slay me, so I threw them around like tennis balls. Then head to Darkfall Cave and meet up with Gelibor, who clearly needs to get more sun on his skin, and he sends me off to fill up an urn with water to open a door. Once that's done, we confront his brother in a temple and he caves the roof in on us. Serana chokes him, then we kick his head in, and I steal his armour. We return to Volkihar Castle and confront Harkon.
You disappoint me, Serana.
He starts monologuing. He starts like this prepared speech about how feeble I am compared to him, how inevitable my defeat is, how the world will soon be his.
Me and Serana tan his ancient crusty hide, and I take my place as the head of Harkon's court. And with that, I beat Skyrim as Count Dracula. This run was so much fun to do, and I can't wait to do more runs for Skyrim. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not drop a like and subscribe. I'll be doing more challenge runs in the future, and if there's a specific run you want to see me do, let me know down in the comments. And I'll see you next time.